Makcik, nasi lemak satu, berapa ya?
RM3, dek.
Uish, mahalnya makcik. Bukan RM1 je ke?
Harga barang sekarang dah naik, dek. Adik tak tahu ke?
This is happened due to inflation. Inflation? What is inflation? Alright, stay tuned everyone. My name is NURUL binti NASIR. Metric number S59967 will present about inflation. Inflation is a general increase in price and fall in the purchasing value of money. The causes of inflation are current spending surplus of the economy in a state of full employment, increase in production costs, and increase in import price. Next, what is the impact of inflation on the economy? When inflation occurs, it will raise the price of export goods, decrease the purchasing power of money, lower the living standards of the community, and increase the cost of living of the community.
2020, during MCO because of COVID-19, production costs are higher due to compliance with SOPs as well as production which can no longer be at optimum levels due to the control of amount of manpower or disruption from COVID-19 infection to workers. This will increase the price of goods and services and the cost of living of Malaysians. At this time, consumer price index also increase.
Consumer Price Index. Consumer Price Index (CPI) is an indicator to know if the country has inflation or not. It measures the change in the average price of a selected group of goods and services in the economy for a year compared to a base year. CPI value also can calculate the inflation rate. So, the graph shows the Consumer Price Index 1999 to 2019. From the graph, we can see that CPI increasing continuously. This means that the price of goods and services increase and the cost of living also increase. We know that there is inflation. Next, let's measure inflation rate. Suppose that 2019 the CPI is equal to 121.5 and at 2018 the CPI is equal to 120.7. We calculate the inflation rate using the formula given and got 0.7%. For example, as we can see that with RM50 in 1999, we can buy a lot of goods. Compared to 2019, we can buy only a few of goods. Last but not least, some tips how to survive during inflation. First, saving, as buying goods as needed only. Second, investment. The invested money is able to increase the purchasing power. Then, buy the gold. The gold can overcome inflation in the long term. That's all from me. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Hi everyone, my name is ASHIKIN binti FAUZI as a 577391 to present about the gross domestic product (GDP). So first, we need to know what is GDP. Gross domestic product (GDP) is the standard measure of the value added created through the production of goods and services in a country during a certain period. So what rank is Malaysia in GDP? So Malaysia is number 38 in the ranking of GDP of the 196 countries that we publish. The absolute value of GDP in Malaysia rose to $35,474 million with respect to 2020. So, does Malaysia have a good GDP? Malaysia is one of the most open economies in the world with a trade to GDP ratio averaging over 130% since 2010. Openness to trade and investment has been instrumental in employment creation and income growth, with about 40% of jobs in Malaysia linked to export activities. So what is the current GDP in Malaysia? GDP growth rate in 2017 was 5.90%. So here are the graph of the GDP growth annual percents in Malaysia from 2010 to 2020. So next, what are the factors affecting GDP? First, leisure preference. Second, non-marketed activities. Third, underground economy. Fourth, environmental quality and resources depletion. Fifth, quality of life. Sixth, poverty and economic inequality. So how to increase GDP in Malaysia? First, Malaysia government can increase tax. Second, reduce government spending in order to reduce the inflationary pressure.
Hello, my name is AMIRAH SHAHIRAH. The topic that I will present is economic growth. Firstly, we need to know what is economic growth. Economic growth refers to the change in the quantity of goods and services produced in a country from one year to the next. It can be positive or negative. Next, what factors help Malaysia's strong economy? Factors that help Malaysia's strong economy are a fast-growing export-oriented economy, a relatively low national income tax, highly affordable local food and transport fuel, as well as a fully subsidized single-payer public healthcare. Malaysia has a newly industrialized market economy, which is relatively open and state-oriented. Malaysian economy is highly robust and diversified with the export value of high-tech products in 2020. Malaysia exports the second largest volume and value of palm oil products globally. What is the current economic condition in Malaysia? In 2020, the COVID-19 epidemic, along with decreased government spending and public and private investment, interrupted the economy's growth trajectory and even caused it to decline. The pandemic's effects pushed the economy into negative territory in 2020 with a 5.6% drop. GDP growth returned to 3.1% in 2021. The Malaysian economy is expected to recover further from the COVID-19 crisis, with GDP growth of approximately 5.75% forecast in 2022, according to the International Monetary Fund. How to increase economic growth in Malaysia? Malaysia needs to make more progress in education, health and nutrition, and social protection to fully fulfill its human potential and achieve the country's aim of being a high-income and developed country, strengthening the quality of education to enhance learning results, rethinking dietary strategy to reduce childhood stunting, and providing enough social welfare support for household investments in human capital building. What can we do to contribute to the growth and development of our country? First, stop littering around. Second, be environment friendly. Third, help support the child's education. Fourth, stop participating in corruption. Fifth, help those in need.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, I will present about recession in macroeconomy. And my name is FATIHAH HUDA binti Muhammad ZAKI with metric number SC044N2. Let's start with the meaning of recession. So what is recession exactly? Okay, a recession begins just after the economy reaches a peak of activity and ends as the economy reaches its trough. It is generally accepted as at least 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. So has this recession ever happened? When it happened and who is affected? Okay, here in this slide I show you about recession in Malaysia, and it happened between 1996 until 1998. It not just affected Malaysians, but it spread across East Asia and it started from Thailand. Why and how can this happen? This has happened because it started from Thailand in July 1997 and spread was East Asia ranking third on economy in the region and leading to spillover effect in Latin America and Eastern Europe in 1998. Because of this, Malaysia was so affected with this recession, and this scenario deemed as one of the worst economic crises Malaysia has ever faced until now. Okay, this graph is GDP growth for Malaysia in 1996 until 1998. It go down to the negative, and as I mentioned before, this recession is the worst economic crisis Malaysia has ever faced until now. So what issue and effect because of this recession? We have several issues, which are: first, contracting of the economy; second, increased unemployment; third, price pressure; fourth, declining private investment; fifth, instability in the exchange rate, and many more. Okay, this recession has affects Malaysian economy experience a recession, contracting by 6.7% in 1998. By nearly all accounts, the current downturn is worse than that experienced by the country in 1985. Recession experienced in 1985 lasts only for 1 year with a mere 10% contradiction. In that time, how Malaysia can handle this matter? So here it can be solved by stabilizing the ringgit, restoring market confidence, strengthening economic fundamental, financial sector restructure, selective exchange control, and more. So how can we conclude, and what lesson can we get from this recession that hit as Malaysia that time? Okay, with the recent financial crisis is instructive not only for policymakers but also for historians. Malaysia's strategy was unique but true and forward-thinking. Despite the early objections, Malaysia has seen positive results, and even the IMF has admitted that exchange control can be beneficial in some situations. Malaysia, like the rest of the region, will have to develop its own solution to fit its specific social and economic conditions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ahmad FAKRULLAH bin BASRI and I will explain about interest rate. Before we start, we need to know what is an interest rate. An interest rate is the percentage of principal charged by the lender for the use of its money. The principal is the amount of money loaned. Interest rates affect the cost of loans. As a result, they can speed up or slow down the economy. The Federal Reserve manages interest rates to achieve ideal economic growth. Let's see how interest rate work. The bank applies the interest rate to the total unpaid portion of your loan or credit card balance, and you must pay at least the interest in each compounding period. If not, your outstanding debt will increase even though you are making payments. How are interest rates determined? Interest rates are determined, in large part, by central banks who actively commit to maintaining a target interest rate. They do so by intervening directly in the open market through open market operations, OMO, buying or selling treasury securities to influence short-term rates. Now, what is the interest rate in Malaysia? Interest rate in Malaysia averaged 2.87% from 2004 until 2022, reaching an all-time high of 3.50% in April of 2006 and a record low of 1.75% in July of 2020. And here, as we can see, is the chart of interest rates in Malaysia. Let us now look at the effect of interest rates. Generally, higher interest rates increase the value of a country's currency. Higher interest rates tend to attract foreign investment, increasing the demand for and value of the home country's currency. Conversely, lower interest rates tend to be unattractive for foreign investment and decrease the currency's relative value. What are the factors impacting interest rates? A country's monetary policy and actions towards interest rates are often driven by several macroeconomic factors. In addition, public sentiment towards the country, its government, and its economic standing play an important part as well. As a conclusion, interest rate levels are a factor of the supply and demand of credit. An increase in the demand for money or credit will raise interest rates, while a decrease in the demand for credit will decrease them. Conversely, an increase in the supply of credit will reduce interest rates while a decrease in the supply of credit will increase them. That is all from me. Thank you.